So we're jumping right in the deep end, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah,
Let's
great.
let's jam with some Nazi stuff over here.
I mean, it's topical. It's timely for. I mean, for then, but I mean, it's kind of for now too.
This is Triumph of the Will,
Yeah,
the famous Triumph of the
the
Will.
the infamous
True.
propaganda slash documentary in quotes.
Docaganda. Yes.
Docaganda, I guess that is probably maybe the best word for it. Directed by Leni Riefenstahl,
Yeah.
who I think, I mean, she had directed movies before this, but was mostly an actor, kind of
Yeah.
previously, I thought.
She'd also directed Nazi movies, like Nazi
Yeah,
propaganda
yeah.
movies before this as well. But yeah, she was big Nazi lover, certainly, and you can see that on the screen.
Oh, oh, can you?
This is another one of those movies like Birth of a Nation that I've heard a lot of people say like it's horrible, but you have to the what it's doing is terrible, but you have to respect certain aspects of it.
I will say, in comparison to The Birth of a Nation, which I thought is very notable for like the effect it had on culture, but like as a movie and like from its technical perspective, it wasn't that far off from like other D.W. Griffith movies that he'd already made or made around the same time.
Yeah, it's a more
Whereas,
excruciating D.W.
right,
Griffith
it's
movie
just like
than usual.
right, it's just kind of like more hateful than the rest of his movies. But this at least this does have a sort of real kind of like technical, I don't know, panache to it. Like this is a well-made piece of propaganda.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think I took in the 1915 episode I took delight in knocking down Birth of a Nation as an
Right.
actually bad movie.
Not so good.
This movie is not, it's not a bad movie, and
Well,
like the shots
it,
are, well, yeah.
it's a little long-winded, I'll say that much.
Yeah.
You can kind of tune a lot of it out.
The things that people say you hate it, but you gotta respect it for Birth of a Nation. That's like, you don't actually have to respect it. Like, it didn't actually do
Right.
that stuff
Yeah.
that history says that it did.
Other than the sort of like cultural impact that it had, which is real, but also
Yes.
makes it worse. Like,
Yeah.
it was a very negative cultural impact.
This movie, I think the reasons why people bring it up as worth looking at, influential,
As
valuable,
an important piece of cinema.
right? They are. I think they're onto something a bit more with this movie.
Yeah, it feels a bit more valid, kind of.
Of course, it is still a Nazi film, and I think also a lot of what people take away from this movie is less the filmmaking and more the blocking of the parade, basically.
Yeah,
It's a movie that does a very good job of capturing very good architecture and blocking.
it looks really good. Like it's very well shot and it's very well edited, for the most part. I think I think it is too long and is very like redundant at times.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we get it, it's a parade. I've
get
seen a
it.
lot of
You love
Nazis
Hitler.
marching. Like, I don't need to see 1,000 more marching shots.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, here's like a great shot of like big ol' flags. Great shot of flags.
Yeah.
I'll give you that much.
But that's the thing, right? It's like, these are giant flags specifically. You know, they made big flags, and the big flags are impressive, and then they just shot them, right?
Right.
I watched Dan Olson's video on Triumph of the Will.
Oh, I have not.
Breaking down the
watch that.
editing and everything like that, and he says it's less of a triumph of filmmaking and more of budget and scale. Right? Where this is a movie that was commissioned by the Nazis to make themselves look cool, and they spent hideous amounts of money on it to make themselves look really cool. So this movie is full of shots of enormous crowds of Nazi lovers.
They love their crowd size, obsessed with it.
And it's trying to show, how much support they have, right? Because
Yeah.
they're only just seizing power now, and there's probably a lot of people who are not feeling so good about the Nazis.
Yeah.
So
ostensibly this movie is documenting a 4-day rally basically in Nuremberg, which seems like a bunch of speeches and a bunch of parades. I think they call it Party Day, which is rich. Not that kind of party. I think it's like the party, because that's what Nazis actually called themselves. Nazi is inherently kind of a mocking and derogatory term. Did you know about this?
Maybe. Sounds kind of familiar.
I read up on it again after watching this because I wanted to like fact check myself on that kind of. There is a Twitter thread and later a Substack article by an author, Rebecca Mackay. I hope I'm saying her name correctly, about how the word Nazi began as like an insult against them. Like it was in Germany, it was kind of shortened nickname for Ignaz, and then that name was sort of like used as an insult for like calling someone like a country bumpkin or like the German equivalent of like a redneck. It's like calling someone Cletus.
It's Crazy and Ignaz, the comic strip characters. Also,
yeah,
maybe
that's the example that this article uses. Is like it's as if there was a political party that everyone called Cletus's in the United States.
Huh.
And that's just what everyone calls them now. Even like neo-Nazis call themselves that. Right. And it's like, but it started as this like, you dumb idiots. Which I think is very funny that's just what the word everyone uses now. Is this like kind of mean nickname.
I mean, isn't that kind of just like the thing that they do, though? Fascists and Nazis in particular, they take other people's imagery and then claim it as their own, right?
True. Swastika, great example.
Yeah. The fascist way is to make it seem like all culture is about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to like go back to like 1930s and 40s things and like see how it's like that they don't call themselves Nazis. That's just what we do now. There's no real like narrative to this. It's mostly just like, here's a bunch of speeches, here's a bunch of more flags, more parades.
Yeah, it's showing a grueling 4 days of Nazis not even hanging out, like Nazis standing in very ordered rows listening to Hitler give a speech.
Very orderly rows.
It does have this sort of obsession with orderliness, which is maybe extends to the Nazis in general. It's showing them as like imposing and having discipline and all this kind of stuff, where you've seen these shots of either soldiers or even just regular people all standing in like perfect rows, perfect distances from each other. And it's you're in the camera, you're seeing 40,000 people doing this, right? And just thinking like, what if one of them has to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
Like
they don't get to.
No.
They're Nazis. They don't get to use the bathroom whenever.
No hall pass for Nazis.
Yeah. There is this kind of like, the movie opens with like Hitler flying in and the plane landing and like the crowd going wild and him like on a like motorcade through Nuremberg. And there is this kind of like really like playing up like the celebrity of it, which is, I don't know, just it's odd to see, of just like, here's the worst person who ever lived, and kind of like the presumably genuine sort of like celebrity that he held in at least parts of Germany in 1934. It's I don't know, it's like, it's because the imagery is so celebratory, and yet it's celebrating this thing that is like, I have such a like visceral gut reaction to it, like, no, this is bad. It I don't know, it's weird.
Well, the movie,
it's weird to see.
The movie does a lot to make it seem like the Nazis are not what they are, right? It's only very infrequently when they even mention race in this movie.
But when they mention it, it's mentioned in a very pointed way.
Yeah, but like I think this movie is trying to like sanitize Nazis a little bit.
Yes, it does feel that way.
It's trying to present them as non-threatening. Like they're in a lot of the Hitler speeches in it. He talks about how they don't want war, they want peace. Like
right
before
I believe
they invade Poland.
he says the guarantor of peace, to which I say my ass. Hitler.
So you know, along the lines of it being propaganda, it is lying to you actively.
Yes.
Not even just in its glorification of Nazis, but even in its portrayal of what a Nazi is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is, I believe, only 2 mentions of sort of race in the whole thing, but they are both in a very kind of like we gotta keep it pure kind of thing. Like it's mentioned in a very Nazi-ish way.
Yeah.
And then throughout the whole thing, there's like lots of just like lovingly composed shots of blonde people,
little baby Nazis. There's a baby that
so many
Hitler.
kids in this, which is also like upsetting for many reasons. One, just of the whole way that like Nazis were very like focused on indoctrinating children, and like they were very like children of the future kind of, but in the worst possible way.
Right. I mean, there's a whole section that shows the Hitler Youth, and it almost evokes Kino Eye in a way, as like here are the young people who are very very on board for what the government is doing.
There's a definite kind of like Soviet film school influence on this, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just like watching all the footage of like, I don't know, like 12-year-old kids in this, it's like how many of these kids died in World War II? That was 10 years after this.
Like as soldiers.
Right. Like they all like got on board, like, hey, there's a parade, let's go join up.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then they all, you know, froze to death in Russia.
I mean, I'm less concerned about them than the people that
no, true. Like, absolutely. But it's like, there's kind of this weird thing where you see all these kind of like, you know, fresh-faced kids who are just kind of like, yeah, obviously I don't have
they're being indoctrinated,
sympathy
right?
for them as the kids who were just murdered. But it is, yeah, there's something kind of upsetting about that also.
Yeah. Yeah. You were speaking earlier about how they treat him like a celebrity, and to me it almost seemed like they were treating him like a king, right? Where they're like, I can't believe like his grace has touched me, you know, or I can see him or whatever. And like I think it maybe while I was watching this movie, a lot of what I was thinking about was like, what is going on in the minds of these average Nazis who, like these average Germans who are like, oh my god, I'm so ready to welcome Hitler to my town, and I'm so excited to see Hitler. Like what's the appeal to them, you know?
Right. Which is, I mean, I can relate that feeling to watching certain political rallies that are happening this year in the year 2024. I don't get what the appeal is. Like, why listen to this windbag? There's a whole section in Triumph of the Will about where it's like he's speaking to the kind of like the farming communities and like the laborers, and he's like, the workers, we love you, you're gonna make this a great nation. And I'm like, why are the blue collar laborers like into this? Like, this is so, he's such a kind of antithetical to what you think their values would be.
Well, I mean, they called themselves,
their flags are real big.
I mean, they called themselves National Socialists because you could
National Socialist Workers.
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the name. Yeah.
Because like you couldn't be elected in Germany. It was what I heard. What I understand is that like you couldn't be elected in Germany unless you signaled that you were socialist in some way, right? And so they just lied. They just called themselves something that they weren't. To get the support of farmers and whoever else.
I think it's like they used the word national to appeal to like right wing, and then socialist to appeal to left wing, and they were just like, let's just get everybody on board.
It's a
Um,
big tent party.
yeah. Oof. Very few tents. No shade in this movie.
There's an indoor hall where there's a lot of people
True.
watching a speech.
A lot of speeches in this movie, which I'm gonna be honest, I kind of tuned out. A lot of them. Like, I tried to pay attention because I wanted to engage with this as an actual like piece of filmmaking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like on the like fifth Hitler speech, I'm like, I get it. Like he's talking his normal bullshit. I'm used to just tuning out his voice whenever I hear it, kind of. The same goes for all the other like Nazi leaders. They're all super sweaty. They all look it's like every leader in this movie who gives a speech looks like he's about to have a heart attack. Yeah, there are times in this movie I definitely lost focus of like watching it just because I'm like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, Lenny. You didn't need to use all the footage that you shot. There was a point I was gonna make earlier about camera stuff and the sort of the grandiosity of this movie and like how the speeches are being filmed and like the crowds and all these things and like how much of it is there's a lot more long lens stuff in this movie than a lot of other movies from around the same time are doing. Probably partially because it is a semi-documentary, right? Like it's filming actual events occurring, and so having a long lens makes that easier to do. But then I think the movie is using that in a way to sort of create this sense of like grandeur or drama to it, of like the shot that like Michael Bay is kind of famous for, of like long lens moving around the subject, really low angle, like looking up at them, and so like the background is moving around like really fast, and there's this like it creates this sense of like, oh, this feels enormous. And that technique is not to the dramatic degree that Michael Bay uses it, but it's like that same sort of thing of like keeping the camera low whenever possible, shooting stuff in a longer lens, and like doing enough camera movement to kind of give a sense of like parallax, and it kind of gives it even greater scale because you're seeing everything kind of in relation to each other a bit more.
Well, yeah, the camera's always looking up at Hitler.
Yeah.
He's either, even when it's close to him, it's looking up at him, and then a lot of the time he's on top of a really tall platform and it's looking up at him there. It's all of this stuff to make him seem grand, king-like, godlike, right? Like, apart from the ways that I think the kind of cinematic legacy that this movie has is mostly to do with the way that the crowd shots are composed, and how people have taken that, like taken riffed on that basically in Star Wars or other stuff.
So much Star Wars in this.
Yeah.
I've just just like framing. Or I'm just like, I have seen this in Star Wars, like this exact shot.
You know, so I think Star Wars just suffers the typical kind of film school way of looking at this movie, which is apolitically, because Lucas used
he uses the framing for both, at least in the first movie, for both the rebellion and the Empire, kind of. Like the whole medal ceremony at the end of Star Wars is like not shot for shot from this movie, but is like very, very, it seems like an almost one-to-one kind of reference point for like how it's framed. Which is a weird choice for Star Wars, because Star Wars is kind of such an otherwise like
movie.
Right, otherwise like very anti-fascist story. But then like all other Star Wars movies are also definitely taking a lot of like Imperial March stuff. Like even the opening music in this movie, I'm like, this sounds like the Imperial March from Star Wars. And I'm sure that that's not an accident. Like that seems like a very natural reference point for John Williams to be like, sure, I'll take that.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the beginning of this movie, like the other kind of filmic thing that I think is talked about the most with this is the beginning of the movie, which is from the point of view of the plane carrying Hitler down from the clouds,
down from
like,
the serene clouds.
Yeah, it starts with this very kind of, I don't know, very kind of relaxed, serene, placid, just like, let's look at clouds for a minute and a half, right? But it's this almost like, look at the realm of the gods, of the Valkyries or something like that,
Yeah.
and then watch the great Hitler like come down from the clouds to you, right?
Yeah.
So it's doing all of this stuff with the angles and that scene of just making him seem like a god. You know, we're talking about the way that it's used apolitically, and there are a lot of aspects of this movie that, like we were talking about, like they're hiding what they're doing and truly saying, and a lot of it is sort of apolitical.
He does kind of try to retcon the Night of Long Knives in one of the speeches, where he's talking to like the current leader of like the sort of like sub organization of Nazis that he had killed. And he's like, "Why? Like, I don't disagree with them. Like, we're friends now. Look, like we're both up here on stage. Like, it's all great." And I'm like, "Is it?"
I didn't
like you just had a bunch of those dudes murdered. So when I was paying attention to the speeches, there was definitely like there's points where Hitler tries to kind of like frame himself as an underdog, and I'm like, fuck off, get out of here. Yeah, there is like definitely with the benefit of historical hindsight, you can see the seams of like where they're kind of talking around certain things and like trying to like take emphasis away from certain things and put it onto like, no, this is about like German culture and heritage, and I'm just like, no, it isn't.
It might have been less clear at the time whether that
right.
was
And that's like, again, it's like I see a lot of that in contemporary America, and it's like you'd think that people would have learned, but I guess not.
No, people don't learn their lessons.
No.
The points where I was most, you know, you were falling asleep during the speeches, but I think I was kind of getting lulled into a kind of chill sense during the marching, because it's just on and on and on marching, right? This movie is really only like 20 or 30% speeches, and the rest of it is just giant crowds and marching people, right? And there are points where you can just go like, oh, that's a pretty shot, that's nice, like that's that's impressive, and then you see like 50,000 people say Sieg Heil, and you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, there's like a really lovely like composed frame of early on of like window shutters being opened and like a nice potted plant in a windowsill, and just two little Nazi flags stuck in the plant, and I'm like, this is such a pretty shot of like a nice plant in a window, but it's like being used in this way of like, aren't Nazis grand? And I'm like, ugh, it's like, I feel like that was my biggest takeaway, is like kind of how pretty this movie is. Like, is like, it's how it's framed and how it's lit and shot and all that stuff, versus what it's actually filming is this thing that I find like deeply awful.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the beginning of the movie it seems to be I'm not sure if it's technically Bavarian, but it seems like this town, this Bavarian architecture in this town, and so a lot of the beginning of the movie is focusing on this like classic German architecture, trying to like create a link between like German heritage and the Nazis.
It does feel like a lot of
pretty buildings, you know.
Yeah, a lot of the like the editing is sort of like trying to create associations, right, between things like that, of like, we're gonna show something like a bunch of like old classic German architecture and like people in like traditional like German folk clothing and things like that, and then like hard cut to those people like dancing with Nazi soldiers or like next to them or something, like to create this like association in someone's brain that like these are the same. And it's it's upsetting to see now. Post World War II, Leni Riefenstahl tried to defend this movie as like, it's purely a documentary, like there's no political agenda. I was just trying to document what was happening at the time. Which, first of all, whenever someone says like this isn't political, I call bullshit, because every piece of art is inherently political. Doesn't matter if you're trying, if you're not trying to, that doesn't change it. Like that, everything carries a certain political weight to it, despite intention. But even her defense doesn't hold up at all, because one, Hitler paid for this movie. You can't say that it's like there's no agenda behind it, because it's like the Nazis paid for it. And then also like Leni Riefenstahl was an active participant at the rally, so it wasn't like she wasn't like some German filmmaker just happened to like, I'm gonna bring a camera along and document this thing that's happening.
Like, and she's been on board this whole time, right? Like
Exactly.
In the Dan Olsen video, he talks about the previous propaganda documentary that Leni Riefenstahl made for the Nazis, which they did their best to scrub from existence because it portrayed them as being friends with the people they had assassinated during the night
It like
of Long
that
Knives.
has a bunch of the people that got assassinated, right?
Yeah, apparently, yeah, I haven't seen it. But
yeah, and neither did I, but I also saw that it's like in like a few months after that movie was released, like half the people in that movie were killed.
And so, like, you know, she's continuing to participate. She's involved. Like this is not. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Something good to come out of this movie, I guess, or a thing that I enjoy that came out of this movie, besides Star Wars, that is somewhat more positive, is in 1942 there was a Movietone newsreel editor named Charles Ridley took footage from Triumph of the Will and recut it with a German cover of a song called The Lambeth Walk, which is from a musical, and it's like this incredibly like Cockney show tune thing, and there was like a whole dance craze in the late 30s, which is why a German cover of it even existed.
Was the dance craze goose stepping?
No, but apparent unsubstantiated. It's possible / likely that the Nazis hated the music, but so this newsreel editor in England took footage from this movie and recut it to that song as a sort of like anti-Nazi propaganda film. And it's very silly because it's like a bunch of goose stepping, but it's been like re-edited to like time with the music.
That's very YouTube era.
That's the thing, is it's like a really early example of like a remix / like shit post.
It's like the auto-tune the news of 1942.
That's what it feels like, and that we'll throw that up in the video version of this.
Wow, yeah,
probably without audio. But we'll link it in like the show notes, which is like, I don't know, it's such a weird cultural artifact because it the way that it's edited feels very contemporary.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
Speaking of video of this, it is probably a good thing that it's like not super easy to get your hands on this movie. Like it exists, but it's not like people are just advertising like, "Hey, buy our copy of Triumph of the Will."
I mean, it's on DVD. Like, it's get it from the library, right?
But like the main people who are releasing it on Blu-ray and DVD are Synapse.
Oh yeah,
which is
weird,
an exploitation movie company. Which is like, I get that, you know, Kino has a release of Birth of a Nation, right, and it puts it in its context. And I'm sure there are a lot of racists who buy that Blu-ray, but like they're doing their best to avoid.
Right, they're not marketing it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like this movie is being sold next to Frankenhooker. It's just like kind of a weird juxtaposition, you know?
It doesn't really feel like the right context for it.
A lot of the places also that I'd seen this movie uploaded on the internet, some of the comments are, "Thank you for uploading this. This is fascinating history. You know, oh, the Nazis were horrible," or whatever. And then like 1 out of every 10 is, "They were right. Thank you for doing this and uploading this, like this wonderful film," you know? And it's like, God.
I mean, yikes. It's the internet.
But it's like how do you deal with media this way? Like this.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good but also very big question.
Yeah.
Because it definitely should be preserved, and I think it should be like, people should see it. I mean, this is the second time I've seen this movie. I saw it when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 maybe.
You saw it when you were 12?
Maybe it was like 14, 15, I don't know. But I saw it when I was like an adolescent.
Mm-hmm.
because my mom was like, no, like you need to see this shit, kind of like
Yeah.
it was as part of my like history education, which I think it it serves an important purpose in that, because then also when I see like certain right-wing political rallies that are like probably actively trying to ape this movie, I'm like, I see what you're doing.
I mean, say what you
If
will
if,
about the
if
Nazis though, but they are much more dedicated to aesthetics than
oh, for
modern
sure.
day conservatives are. Like modern day conservatives have awful
Look like dog
taste.
shit.
Right, right.
Yes.
Like conservatives have very bad taste in like in art, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and so
absolutely.
the stuff that they make looks like shit.
Yeah.
And like something that's interesting about this is that like uh uh the right-wing people of 30s Germany like had good aesthetic senses in some ways.
Yeah.
And so they were able to make probably more effective propaganda and more beautiful movies, uh and not like, I don't know, the Christmas Carol that has like somebody goofing around playing Mike, what's his name, Michael Moore, uh and has Kelsey Grammer and all these other conservative, John Voight and all these other people in it. And like like conservatives these days, they make movies that look like garbage
Yeah.
because they are garbage. And
I'm
like,
I'm wondering how much like definitely a lot of the like boom of like good filmmaking that came out of like Weimar Germany was mostly spearheaded by like very left-wing intellectual
Jews
artists
who
people.
left.
Yeah, yeah, they were all Jewish and or gay, and they all left. But I'm curious how much of that like very fertile sort of like space for artistic expression kind of at least let someone like Lenny Riefenstahl kind of like learn better craft.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
I wrote a few adjectives here while I was watching it, like showing the kind of like the, I don't know, two sides of this movie: just captivating, boring, elegant, horrifying, imposing, and bland.
Yeah,
Which,
it is.
yeah,
It is a film full of contradiction in
yeah.
that way, for sure.